Hey everybody, Mr. Bookyboo here, and today I'm going to do something a little bit different with these videos. In the past, I kind of showed you the overview of the city, or I'd show you different creations that I made, but today what I'm going to do is actually show you a little bit behind the scenes and how I actually build these things and how I actually create. Because I get asked all the time by you guys, how do you do that? How did you do the wiring? How did you design this? How did you build that? Whatever it is, I get asked a lot of questions on that, and so I thought it'd be interesting to kind of share with you a lot of what my thought process, what I do behind the scenes, and obviously like I'm on the camera now too, which I've never done before. So I figured it's like, hey, this is totally crazy and different, so we're gonna try this out. So what I'm gonna do today is show you how I design my layout with lighting in mind, because it's not as easy as you think when you start laying this stuff out. So come on, I'm gonna show you what I did. Okay, so when you decide you want to light up your Lego city, the first thing you have to think about is, what do I want to light up? For me personally, I really wanted to light up the modulars because there's some really good light kits out there from a lot of different manufacturers and whatnot, and custom work as well. And I just think they look really cool all lit up. I mean, you can see as I pan down Main Street here, just how spectacular those look. So that was kind of my priority. But I didn't just want the modulars lit up, I wanted additional lighting as well. And so that's kind of where you see the street lights coming into play along the boardwalk in the front here, and then further down along the street there as well. I also have other plans, like I've started lighting up my railroad station. I would actually like to add some lights to the bridge here eventually, maybe light up this tower right in here, add a few more lights over in the garden area outside the Parisian restaurant. So you just got to kind of start thinking, like, what is it I'm going to light up? I can light up my facades in the back. I mean, I can see how you quickly spiral out of control when you start thinking about this stuff. It's like you can go crazy and say, I want to light up everything. But if you start with kind of a broad, plan of what you want to do. So you want to light the modulars? Do you want to maybe have some street lights? And kind of just start to map it out in your mind. Maybe make a list, write it down. That's your first step. Because without a good plan, you're going to be spinning your wheels and you're going to be like, oh, I need this or I need that, or what do I do next, right? So the second thing, which is really critical and something that I didn't think about at first, is you need to locate your power source relative to your layout. So where's the outlets in the room? So I have exactly one outlet on this wall. So my Bricksburg goes all the way down here. It's ridiculously long and skinny layout. My outlet is actually right under here, behind these bins underneath there. So I have one outlet for the whole wall. So that is critical because obviously this all runs on power. So how am I going to power it if I only have that one outlet? That means I need to make that be like the central hub where all the power needs to go to. So you need to locate those outlets. It's really important. Step 3 is to determine the power requirements for what it is you want to light up. Now, the modulars, in this instance, I use BrickLoot light kits, and the modulars themselves often have multiple plugs. So it's not just one strand of lights that goes into one plug that you can plug into one port on your power source. They actually, depending on the modular, they can have up to like 5 or 6 plugs because each floor is typically separate, so you can separate the floors if you want to. And so each floor typically has its own plug, and then if there's any other additional extra things, like for example, Palace Cinema has the outside flashing lights. If you add any street lights near the modular or any other extra little bits, those can all be extra plugs as well. And so you really need to think about, what is it that each modular requires. Now, other modulars are much simpler, like the pet shop and whatnot. Those only have like 2 or 3 plugs. And so what you can do is you can actually share your power source amongst those modulars if you need to. So, but you got to kind of, as you're going, kind of think of that and think, okay, how am I going to get power to all these modulars, and how am I going to do that? And I'm actually going to show you some of the tools and equipment that I use to power everything a little bit later on. So once you've determined the power requirements, what you're going to use is you're actually going to use, I use USB hubs because everything's USB powered basically. And so and then those all kind of route back to that main outlet that I talked about earlier. So that's a really critical thing to think of is, you're starting to plan out. So if you have a long skinny layout like I do, you're going to have power needs all the way at the far ends as well as in the middle and everywhere in between. And so you kind of need to start thinking, how am I going to lay this out? How am I going to get power all to this whole area? If you have a layout that's deep, how are you going to get power to the middle? How are you going to get power to the far ends? Where's if the outlet's at one end and you have a table that's 8 feet deep? How are you going to get power to the opposite side? So those are all things you need to consider when you're trying to figure out the lighting. The other important thing is, how are you going to hide the wires? So that's actually easier said than done in certain circumstances and tricky in other circumstances. So the modulars is actually one of the easier ways to hide, because all the wires kind of route to the back in the kits. And so that means that you can hide all the plugs and stuff behind the modulars, which you can't really see behind. Like, you can't see behind any of these unless you really look closely. Some of the modulars you can kind of see through. But even then, I've kind of hidden the various power sources. So it's all kind of hidden back there. Now, the street lamps are a totally different ballgame. The street lamps that you see in the foreground here, and I get a little closer so you can see kind of what's going on here a little bit closer. So the street lamps are much closer to the front. And the cords that they come with aren't the longest in the world. They're actually pretty short. They're maybe, I want to say maybe like 8 or 10 inches long. So they're not going to reach, if you go back, the plug's going to kind of be somewhere, depending on where it is, in the middle of the modular, right? It's really hard to hide that. My solution, and this was when I started redesigning Bricksburg and I knew I was going to light it, was to elevate everything. So I'm going to show you here what I did is so the facade in the front, the retaining wall in the front is actually a facade. I let the cat out of the bag with saying the facade part first, but you get the idea. So the retaining wall is actually a facade, and actually Bricksburg, the modulars, sit on a wooden platform, which I'm going to show you right here. So what I've done is I've made it so that I can easily by just taking these little guys off, I can pop out almost all of these modular pieces. See, it's a completely modular piece. That comes out, and then you can see some of the wires under there, and that's how I hid all my wires. So the street lamps go to the front, and they go under, and they actually tuck in. I'll get a little bit closer here so you can see. So they actually run under the tiles. Now you want to be careful when you're running wires under the tiles so you don't pinch the wires. I've accidentally done that a couple times. Luckily, these wires are pretty easy to fix. If you've ever done any kind of wiring or wire work in the past, you don't even need to solder them, to be honest with you. You can just strip the casing and twist them together and get some electrical tape or some wire nuts to reattach them pretty easily. But just be careful when you're placing the wires under the tiles. They go under so this is the powered light here. It goes under the tiles and it wraps right under here, and this is my wooden platform, and then it plugs in, and that's the hub sitting right there. And it's black, so it kind of blends in, but you can see the tips of the hub. You can see that the silver tips will plug in there. So the lights plug in from the front, and then what happens is the modulars, there's actually these hubs are in the back as well, and I'm going to show you an example of that in a minute as well. And then everything kind of routes from these. These are unpowered. These are just dumb USB hubs that actually go into a powered hub that's in the middle of my layout. That sits right under the main courtyard, because this is like the middle of my layout right here. And so there's actually a powered hub that sits under here. And so that is how I decided to hide the wires. So if you want to elevate. Even if you don't want to, you don't need to do like I did. You don't need to go, 6 inches tall. You don't need to have trains down low and up high. Even if you do like a 2-inch platform on top of your tabletop, you can get wood really cheap at the lumberyard, and you can just build a platform, and you can do like a finished, if you want to, facade on the front, or you can just get some really nice veneer and just paint it black or paint it whatever color you want to match your table, or to make it just blend in. It gives you a lot of flexibility by having that raised platform to have your city sit on top of. If you don't do that, you could always drill holes in your tables if you want, and run everything underneath. That's always an option. Or you can try to run the wires to the back behind the modulars. Again, you just might run into some issues with any lighting that's more forward. And remember, I'm in a really narrow city. my city's only 3 base plates deep. If you know, if I wanted to put lights like down here and stuff, that might be a little tricky for me to run them all the way back. I'd have to find a way to hide them. So just keep that in mind as you're doing this. Now, the next thing that I'm going to show you is some of the tools that I had used to do all this. And so that's going to be over here. I've got it nice and set up for you. So basically, the lighting kits, this is an example. So this is a Brick Loot lighting kit. This is for Assembly Square. And so you can see it's a self-contained kit. All the pieces you need come together. And you can actually see, well, it's actually kind of hard to see in here, but you can see that, so there's the individual plugs for different, you know, the different floors and the different parts of it. This is a pretty extensive kit because Assembly Squares are pretty huge modular, but they're all, you know, if you go this route, it's really nice. Everything's self-contained. It makes it really easy for you to, you know, to build with. And the instructions are really good as well that they have online, so you can just print them out and off you go. The other tools though, that I'm going to recommend is some USB extension cables. So this is, I got these off of Amazon. You can buy these in bulk. They're really inexpensive, and you get them in all different lengths. So you can get them, you know, I bought some that were like 1 foot, 3 foot, and 6 foot, I think, because again, you know, keep in mind, you're going to need to run power all the way to the far end of your layout, or all the way to the front of your layout if you have a deep layout, and all the way to this side. So I have extension cables running from, and this is an example of one of the powered hubs that I use. So I like the Anker products. This is a powered hub. So this one you actually, this is what plugs into the wall. And so then what happens is from here, I use the USB cords to plug in to these dumb USB hubs. So these are not powered. These draw the power from the powered hub. And so then these are distributed throughout the layout. And so it's kind of like a daisy chain. And so that enables you to get the power where you need it. And then by having the different lengths of USB cables, you know, you don't have to coil up too much and have it hidden and stuff. But there's like a ton of wires under here. And I can just show you. So for example here, see, more modular. Modular everywhere. Everything's modular. So if I show you, and if I swing around so you can kind of see. So there's another hub right in there. And that's kind of powering all the stuff in the town square in the frontage here. So it's powering the street lamps. It's powering one of the flashing lights. You know, so there's a few different things in this area that are running off of that hub right there. And then I'll show you, just so you can see it and get a good feel for it. So if I go, I'm gonna have to go up and over here. Let's see if we can do this. So I go up and over and into the corner back here, you can see there's one of the hubs that is behind the modular hiding. So this particular hub is actually powering the diner and the Palace Cinema. And so all those plugs plug into that one hub, which then goes under my table. It routes in the back under the table. And then it's actually attached to the upper surface because my railroad track runs along the back there as well. So it's actually attached to the top of the wooden platform. And then it comes down and it plugs into one of these hubs right here as well. So that's kind of how I do it. And then the last consideration that you want to have is maintenance. And again, this is where the pop-out panels come in really well. So if you do an elevated platform, make sure you can get to the stuff, because I'll tell you, I'm always futzing with it. I'm always messing around, switching things up, saying, oh, I need to add a light here, take a light from there, or something that gets knocked loose and you have to fix it. There's lots of maintenance with lighting stuff. It's not just, plug it in and forget it. And so you need to be able to get to it. So whether you get to it from the back, if you're able to do that, I'm not. My layout's right up against the wall, and so I can't. I can crawl. I have these little cubbies that I've left. I can crawl under here, but it's not easy, and it's not easy to reach up and over into the back, and especially to reach to the front here. That's not going to happen. So that's why I opted to make my retaining walls modular and able to pop out easily, so that I can quickly get access to any of these hubs that I need to do the maintenance that I need and get everything working. So that's it, really. I mean, that's if you keep those steps in mind, you're going to be well on your way to having a great looking city that looks fantastic lit up. just make sure you go in with a plan. You know, start thinking ahead of time, kind of map it out. Think of your power requirements, think of your power sources, get the right tools for the job. You're going to need some hubs. You're going to need, you know, powered and unpowered hubs. You're going to need those extensions, and you're going to need the lights. So I hope you found this video useful. Like I mentioned earlier, this is a little bit different from the normal ones, but I'm going to try to start doing more of these, like behind the scenes kind of how I develop stuff, because I get asked those questions a lot, and I really want to share, you know, kind of things that I've learned with you guys. So I'll be back soon with another one of these videos. Thanks for watching.